Sorry, I got caught up around the house, but yeah, wow, that's ridiculous. That's some real manipulative, abusive shit. And it definitely checks in with a few other things I've heard about him sending dick pics to people who was in the same room in a whole group of friends and whatnot. Very unsolicited. Yeah, basically all the things you're saying, I really appreciate. And it confirms basically for me that things were as bad, if not worse, than we had, learned from Lucy's post and the conversations that were had at that time. For me, the first filter was Dante, and as well as a handful of other people around me that were like, yeah, don't talk to him. It's just, yeah, all that shit's real. Don't really, contact him and shit. And over those years, a lot of people either like slowly came to the other side, or he just like, met a bunch of people who were outside of the circles of friends that we had in the city. And yeah, it's just wild. So now he's like a very famous underground producer, and there's a whole group of beat producers that I started hanging out with and going to this record store with last year. And, they're all huge fans of his music, but none of them knew him back then. And some of them know him now and are starting to work with him. And I'm seeing this whole cycle continue. And I'm like one of the few people, like I said, that actually knows about his history. So I think I'm going to talk to a few people at first separately about that. And also a few other people that are outside of that producers club, but like who have been around and who know about all the shit. So I would love to chat with you at some point and like you said, brainstorm some ideas, because I don't want to get either of us in any type of danger. Like, I don't really know what could potentially happen in these situations. And yeah, I definitely don't want you to be in any danger for saying anything, as well as myself and other people that I know. So, but yeah, like you said, I think the best way is to start with talking to a few people, because as a community, the more people that know as a community, we can just stand up to that shit and, either, let him know that he's not part of this community or not. I don't know, like, but yeah, I don't know exactly how this can go, but I would definitely like to chat with you about it at some point in the future. I'm a little overwhelmed right now. It's been just an eventful weekend and Sunday, so it's hard for me to get all my thoughts organized and whatnot. But I really appreciate everything you're saying, and I'm glad you appreciate me speaking to you about it. Yeah, it's a lot of uncomfortable conversations to be had between a lot of different people, and I'm just trying to get people to start doing that, because it's worth it. I mean, it's necessary rather for our community. And yeah, so I actually had written down, like, to give you my full perspective on everything to do with Chin. I actually went and, like, in my journal wrote down page after page after page of everything that I can remember. So at some point, maybe we could compare notes and just talk about what people might be able to help and what ways of going about it might be the safest and the most effective and whatnot. But I'm really just glad that you're even open and willing to spend some time talking about it, because yeah, he's making way more friends. He's making way more musical collaborations with people who have communities that are now slightly less safe because he could be around. And yeah, I don't even really feel comfortable going to a lot of the shows and shit that I see now, because it's just, yeah, it's just a whole mess. But yeah, so if I could, yeah, maybe I'll reach out in the next week or something, and we could just chat a little bit more or something like that. All right, thank you. But yeah, everything you're saying is really exactly what I needed to hear and what I think a lot of people need to hear. So, yeah, just like over these years, I started to feel crazy myself, just with all these people talking about it ain't that big of a deal, or it wasn't really like that. And you know what I mean? You're really affirming like what my intuition and a lot of my friends' intuitions was telling us from the beginning. And obviously from what Lucy was saying and a few other people were saying as well. So I have a handful of people in mind, like I said, that I'm going to continue to talk to about it, and I'm going to try and organize my thoughts a little bit better, so we can have a conversation in the near future. Yeah, cool. So, but yeah, I'm about to start a new job tomorrow morning. So the next like 4 days, I'll probably be pretty busy. But I would love to reach out towards the end of next week and figure out a way to figure out some more things. All right, I appreciate you, and yeah, have a good rest of the weekend and week. All right, peace.
Okay, cool. Well, definitely take your time. I definitely know what it's like starting a new job and like having to readjust to the new schedule and whatnot. I'll be around, and yeah, I totally hear you, because that's one of the other issues. I guess one of the other things that I contemplate often is that these people don't just die off, you know what I mean? Like, even if they're basically banished from one community, that just allows them to go to other communities where people don't know what's going on. And so that's also why I feel kind of a responsibility to also make sure that these folks go through some form of reparative process or something like that. Like, I think he needs to be around people who would actually keep an eye on him and who would not really allow for him to enact that kind of harmful behavior. Now, unfortunately, that's kind of difficult to know who truly would be those sorts of people, like, or who would just join in on whatever it is he's doing. But if you have a community that's constantly watching you and your behavior and kind of keeping tabs and not allowing you to be around women alone or much at all or something like that, you know, that can be very helpful. But we need a community to do that. If it's just one or two people, it doesn't work as well. So that's one of the things that comes to mind, because he's there, you know. People like him, they want him around and stuff like that, but they definitely have to know what's going on and what to look out for and what to expect from him, essentially, to be able to prevent him from doing anything like that. Again, at least not on our watch, you know. So that's like one of the things that comes to mind anyway. Like, I don't like being around people like this, obviously, and it's hard. So I definitely feel you on that. But then the other side of me, I'm kind of like, yeah, but like, I at least already know how he is and what to look out for. There's a lot of people who don't know that at all. And if he just like moves to another state or something like that, or is around people who know nothing about his history, like recently, then it allows for more people to be victimized by his behavior. Than if he's kind of sequestered to a community who knows what to expect from him and how to keep him in check. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely down to brainstorm, definitely down to talk anytime. I'll be around. I've been living in LA, but I've been doing the bi-coastal thing. So I should be back in Philly in May, maybe. So I'm also down to like meet up and hash things out as well. I do also know Dante, and it is like, you know, disappointing to hear that, like, you know, just because time passed or something like that, especially when he was one of the main people before who was like, nah, you can't trust Bull, to now be like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. It's like, why not? Why doesn't it? You know, it's not to say that people aren't redeemable, that like they're just trash forever, but they might be if, again, there's no real incentive to change. So if Chinedu just sees that all he needs is a little bit of time and then he can come back, you know, to the community again and still like, you know, get opportunities and stuff like that. And, you know, especially speaking to like well-known producers, you know, or producers who have a bunch of connections, that gives him a lot more opportunities to be around all sorts of people. that can allow him to perpetuate this kind of behavior again. So, yeah. But yeah, I'll be around. So feel free to hit me up whenever, and we'll talk soon.